The U.S. military carried out a strike against an alleged Venezuelan drug cartel boat earlier today in international waters in the Caribbean somewhere.
The radio call was short. Unidentified craft, armored bows, drone overhead, and a scorpion emblem glinting on a crate of precursor chemicals. Within hours, an American carrier strike group pivoted. Marines prepped for boarding ops, and Operation Iron Justice moved from planning cell to execution. We'll take you from that first intercept near Puerto Rico through the drone strikes, deck landings, and bunker raids that followed, step by step. More important, we'll show the moment the U.S. stopped saying smugglers and started saying armed threat. Follow this sequence, and the red line becomes obvious. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why did a single crate and a buzzing drone over blue water trigger a carrier strike group to change course? First contact came fast. A Coast Guard cutter tracked 3 unmarked fast boats running a tight wedge near Puerto Rico, bows plated and throwing spray at 40 knots. Their radios were clean until you listened close. Bursts of encrypted traffic in short intervals, likely preloaded keys. On deck, plastic drums rode in shock-absorbing cradles with chemical handling labels still intact, not repackaged street cargo. The boats held steady just outside territorial waters, testing bearing lines, shifting throttle together like a unit drilled to move as one. The bind appeared the moment the overhead feed caught the support gear. A fixed forward pintle on the lead boat masked a heavy barrel, and 2 crew kept gloved hands over ammo cans. Law enforcement protocols call for warnings, hails, and disabling fire if needed. That works when the other side treats it like a chase. It breaks when those boats run under a drone and can pour fire at 500 meters, while a cutter slows to deploy a boarding team. The risk wasn't a stash of pills. Those labeled drums meant factory-scale precursor capable of feeding months of meth and fentanyl output. Add mounted guns and drone overwatch, and you move from case building to casualty prevention. The drone made the difference. It loitered high with a stabilized gimbal, swinging smoothly over the formation, feeding steady imagery with thermal contrast even through haze. Its endurance kept it on station past the first intercept pass, then again as the boats shifted formation to a staggered column, a classic small unit move to cover arcs and react to a stern approach. Each radio burst synced to course changes. Whoever ran that net understood timing and discipline. This wasn't a courier run. It was a moving screen with eyes in the sky. That posture matters under the law. Hostile intent assessments don't wait for the first round when an organized armed group signals its readiness and capability to strike. Maritime practice, coupled with Article 2 authority, supports preemptive action in international waters to neutralize an imminent threat. The threshold tightens when encrypted coordination, mounted weapons, and a drone cueing the fight show up together. It isn't the flag on the stern that counts. It's the structure and intent evident in the formation. The pivot order followed within minutes. The carrier air wing shifted sorties from routine training to maritime support, pushing airborne early warning forward for radar clarity and tasking electronic attack for comms characterization. Marines aboard the amphibs ran rapid briefs, taking standard visit, board, search, and seizure checklists and hardening them for opposed boarding. Rules of engagement made it explicit. Hostile fire equals combat, and the boarding package flows under that assumption. Non-lethal options stayed ready, but no one mistook the mission profile. Partners layered in. Coast Guard cutters kept hails and evidence protocols in the lead, preserving admissibility for any later prosecutions. Navy ISR filled the gaps. P-8A tracks stitched a wide area picture, and surface radars built a contour of every wake in reach. The statute places law enforcement out front, but Department of Defense Overwatch stood a half step behind, ready to act if the situation went hot. The first shots broke the standoff. Warning rounds arced ahead of the bow. The drone dipped toward a cutter's mast, closing the distance faster than anyone liked. Marines got the green light. If that UAV crossed into a strike envelope, they would take it down and board under combat conditions. Boats cut across the cutter's path, and the aircrew called altitude changes with a calm count that made the danger plain. In that moment, the smuggling narrative fell away. A military-grade sensor platform directing armored boats reads as armed reconnaissance, not commerce. That capability crossed the line and justified a kinetic posture. Crews ended the run, decks were seized, and the question shifted. If those boats were the scouts, where was the fortified shore node feeding them? What did Marines find underground that made planners stop saying cartel lab and start saying enemy position? Signals from the seized radios led the team ashore. Direction finding fixed the source to a low bluff above a mangrove inlet, tied to CJNG's Black Scorpion cells that had been queuing traffic at sea. Joint tasking orders went live under two names: Operation Iron Justice to hit the shore node, and Operation Blind Horizon to stretch surveillance across the approaches. The handoff was tight. Coast Guard handled evidence continuity. Navy ISR built the map, and Marines prepped to insert on short notice. The problem set shifted in one night from hull inspections to bunker entry. The next hurdle wasn't tactical. It was political and legal. Mexico and nearby partners pushed back on visible U.S. ground moves, warning that overt raids would light up their domestic politics. Planners worked through options that did not step over sovereignty lines. Title 50 pathways surfaced for select support roles. Partnered units were floated for the breach element, with U.S. teams in advisory and enabler lanes. Drone strikes sat on the table as a last resort if a firing position threatened a ship or a coastal town. Every course had trade-offs measured against the need to stop a fortified resupply site before it fed another armed screen at sea. The strike package took shape. ISR drones flew tight stacks over the target, tracing heat plumes and spotting ventilation shafts along a ridge that looked like scrub. Marines lifted from decks offshore and staged inland to cut the waterline. Precision fires hit road choke points and a jetty to block high-speed craft from slipping out. A small signals team pushed a beam to peel back frequency hops and watch handsets light up as alarms spread. The goal was simple: freeze the nest, then peel it open. The entry told the story. The first breach hit a blast door sunk behind a warehouse wall. Inside, a corridor angled down to steel racks lined with belt-fed machine guns, spare barrels, and boxes of links. Crates marked for anti-armor work held launcher tubes and components. Two long cases matched missile housings. A windowless room carried encryption pads and frequency hopping sets with power backups cabled to a generator row. It wasn't clutter. It was laid out like a magazine in a comms node. Deeper in, the cache matched a plan to dominate both sea and shore. Military-grade drones sat on rails ready for swarm launches. Workbenches held optical mounts and spare gimbals. Racks of precursor chemicals ran along a concrete bay with air handling and spill containment. In another shed, boat hulls showed cutouts for firing ports and armor kits stacked for install. The logistics looked like a forward operating base built to feed and protect a maritime screen, not a hideout for a single run. Guidance from CSIS and the Sufan community shaped the next moves. The backbone remains law enforcement-led operations to hold cases together, work with partners, and keep the frame within rule of law. But nodes built like this demand limited, focused kinetic action, or they regenerate within weeks. The balance is steady pressure from investigators with precise hits to break the backbone when a node turns into a fortified launch point. The raid had a rhythm. Door charges punched, teams flowed room to room, and a jammer net dragged hostile UAVs out of the sky in a wobble before they dumped into the sand. Detainees gave up nicknames, call signs, and handoff points. A wall map traced ties to Allied cells and marked resupply routes that ran from this ridge to fast boats in the inlet and south, to another storage yard inland. What came out of the ground confirmed the threat level. Weapons, planning tools, and hardened space explained the shift in rules of engagement. The complex could project force at sea and ashore, and the posture wasn't a talking point. It was a reaction to a defended site built to fight. Neutralization messages went out across the net, but side channels stayed live, and splinter crews began to move. The next question moved past raids to control. Where does deterrence end and long-term governance begin? The border hasn't moved. The battlefield has. What we fund, train, and authorize next will decide who draws the next line